Morning and welcome, Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason on this Monday. You know, we took Friday off, 3 days off in a row. I got to get retrained. Welcome to Monday. I hope you guys had a great weekend. I know the things happening in the Middle East dominating the news cycle, and it looks like that's going to get worse before it gets better. We'll talk about the ramifications, at least on the financial markets with that. Normally we have Joey on. Are you shocked? Clients stacking up. I think his message to you last week, you better start playing defense here. A lot of you heeding that. If you want to get a hold of Joey, I wouldn't wait. 602-909-9048. He can help you keep those assets from getting trampled here as we're watching all of this play out. We got a lot of data coming this week. We got PPI. We got CPI this week. We have Fed minutes this week. We also have the start of third quarter earnings on top of what's going on in the Middle East, on top of more and more strikes happening all over the place. As a matter of fact, just today alone, 3 more strikes starting. We'll bring you up to speed on all of that. Our toll-free number, 800-951-0592. The website at allamericangold.com. And obviously we got a rally here in gold, in silver, crude oil as well. And you kind of see when things really get ugly. And I'm not talking about, somebody missed earnings or one government report. I'm not talking about these things, but when things really get scary out there, Jason, you see people, they go to gold. That's just what they do.
Go to gold. That's right. You go to, I was just talking to a few people this morning, and the inflation is sometimes it feels like it's been a while. It's been going on for a while. It's, this heightened inflation, and sometimes it feels like it kind of subsides, doesn't it? Yeah, the price of this hasn't gone up for 12 months or 6 months. So, okay, maybe it's over with, and that's kind of the trick. It's not over with, and so the people that know that it's not over with, just like Joe said, gold is a great place to be, and I think we're going to see inflation hit really hard again in the months to come, in a major way, and it's better to be in gold now than waiting to see, well, is the Fed going to raise rates and print a bunch of money? Because everyone needs money, Joe. Everyone's running out of money. Nobody has any money. Everyone goes on strike. Why? Because everyone doesn't have money, Joe.
Yeah, 800-951-0592, the reverse repos. We've almost had $300 billion come out of that. We're down to, about $1.2 trillion now. So we're 50% down from the peak, which was I want to say like April or May of last year, but really didn't start selling down in earnest until the summer. It sold off a little bit. We went from 2.5 to about 2.2. Now we're at 1.2. Did you see the debt again? Man, that's making big jumps here. 33,517 billion. I mean, you do the old round up thing, Jason, right? Round it up to 34 trillion. And I had said, hey, we're going to get to 34 trillion, at the year end. It looks like we're going to go well past that number. And if you go out to allamericangold.com today, Jeff Guntenlatch, another great interview. And he was just talking about, hey, people don't get it. We have so many and especially over the next 2 years, so much debt that was at 0.5% that needs to roll into 5% plus, and talking about just the interest on the debt is going to take up so much of the spending. He's talking, just like I've talked about. It's going to be more than Medicare and Medicaid. It's going to be more than Social Security. It's going to be more than defense. But if you just take what he considers the mandatory, take Social Security, take Medicare, Medicaid, defense, and the interest on the debt, he said everything else would have to be zero. Right? We'd spend no money on, and Jason, it still wouldn't be enough to cover taxes, to cover what we bring in taxes, right? We'd still be in massive debt. But he's talking about interest payments on the debt. Forget about $1 trillion. He's talking about getting close to $2 trillion, and that's only if rates stay right where they are.
That's right. Spending year over year is up 10% for the federal government. And revenue, tax revenue, is down 10%, and that's a number that's actually getting worse. You're going to have 11 and 12% on both sides. So, here's the thing: that the taxes are up in a lot of ways, but the tax revenue collection's down 10%. So, Joe, what are you going to do if you're the federal government? You got to spend, borrow. If the government shutdown doesn't happen in November, if they do the same thing, last minute save. The last minute save, I think, I could be wrong. It could be another $400 billion onto the debt. I mean, is that what that's going to be? And is anyone in Washington D.C. The whole McCarthy being removed? Boy, that's a nice distraction to another $400 billion going on the debt in November. That's what I see.
And again, what's happening in the Middle East is opportunistic time, right? A lot of weapons, and you hear all the reports about, hey, we're running low on this and running low on that, and the Middle East situation, are they taking advantage of that? Probably. But when we get back, what is the thing that we probably would fear the most out of that? We'll talk about that when we return. (800-951-0592) Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason here on this Monday. And, as we look at what's happening, the numbers just seem to keep rising here when it comes to what's going on in Israel. This is, pretty shocking, right? Because you think, the Israelis tend to have a pretty good grasp on things. And when you think security, you think that, they more than anybody, know how to protect themselves. But right now, they're saying the death toll now over 1,200. The vast majority of those are Israelis, thousands injured. They're essentially cutting off Gaza now. They're turning off the water, the power, the food. This is, I think, for right now, if it stayed this way, let's just say if it stays inside of Israel, that's one thing. Right? That's probably the best case scenario. And I'm just talking about, financially, I'm talking about, people's lives, right? And how it would affect us financially. That is it. I don't want anybody to think, Joe's being harsh or he's not being sympathetic enough. That's for a different show, right? We can have other people argue about what's happening, why it's happening, who's right, who's wrong, and we're not getting into that. Not on this show. The big fear is, what is Israel going to do in regards to Iran? Right? Because the news that, if it's to be believed, Hamas is saying, hey, yeah, the Iranians, they're the ones that helped us. They're the ones that helped us plan this and do this. If it gets out of the border of Israel, Jason, things then all of a sudden take a big turn. A lot of the high ups in Hamas reside in Qatar. So that's another issue, right? So those are two very important countries when we're talking about energy. If Israel strikes at Iran, you can expect energy prices are going to get a lot more expensive again, right? We'll be talking, probably talking $100 oil, depends on what they hit. If they go after some of the Iranian money, right, which would be their oil infrastructure, then we're probably talking 150, maybe $200 a barrel. Same thing with Qatar. So, Jason, I think that's really the fear here is what happens now. Obviously, they're going to lock down the Gaza Strip and fight some battles within the border. But I think a lot of people, me included, I'd be shocked if there isn't some form of retaliation against Iran after all of this.
Maybe, we'll see. That's a major thing. What Joe's talking about is major because Iran is attacked by anybody. People got to wonder, why hasn't Iran been attacked? They took out Iraq, took out Afghanistan, they took out Libya, all these unbanked countries. And Iran's another one of these, countries that doesn't have a central bank that's in a league with the rest of the world. So why haven't they? What's the problem there? The problem is the Strait of Hormuz. If Israel or America or anybody attacks Iran, they have a great ability to shut down the Strait of Hormuz, and you would see probably within a month's time, a gallon of gas in America go to $8 a gallon. It could go as high as $10 a gallon very quickly. That's a major problem because if a gallon of gas is $8. You better believe what's sitting at your shopping market. You're going for your groceries, going for your Walmart trips, Joe, going to the restaurant. All that stuff's going to be massively more expensive. This is why nobody will touch Iran. Not because Iran's so powerful. It's because of what they can do. And I don't know if Israel's going to do it or not, Joe. That's the big deal because we're going to be talking on the Happy Cup of Joe. I did talk to Steve Mitchell. He wants to talk about it. He doesn't like what he's seeing. He doesn't believe what he's seeing, and so we can go down that path on the next hour, Joe.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be. I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to put it in the likely column. That's where I sit. I think it's likely. This is something where Israel's comparing it, saying, "Hey, this is our 9/11," which for me, that's Israel's way of saying we're going to go outside our borders. That's what that means to me. Now, I could be wrong on that, but I think that's the fear. So when we're talking about what's the fear here, because obviously we've grown up with this, right? There's been, the Middle East has been a powder keg. Israel's been a powder keg, but not like this, right? This is new level stuff. We haven't seen this kind of death, the hostage taking. I mean, there's a lot to this. And when I hear them talk, I did happen to hear, and I don't know who it was, their ambassador to the United Nations, and how he was talking at the UN over the weekend. It sure feels like to me that Israel is warning we're going to go outside the border here.
Yep, just in time for a global monetary meltdown. The timing couldn't be more perfect. Why couldn't Hamas have done this 6 months ago? And we'll talk about this more because there'll be a lot of speculation, but a lot of facts that you can hash out. These are the things that we talk about geopolitically, which affect why you're supposed to be buying gold and silver. Why we do an economic show to help you save the right type of money. The paper money, those digits in your account, that's not going to get you through what's getting ready to happen. And whether it be a big geopolitical mess to cover the economic destruction, or if they're just going to run with economic destruction like they did in 2008, which I think covered for things that were going on during 9/11, there'll be something being covered up. There's always, they don't want to point at the Fed. Don't point at us. We just control and own everything. It's not our fault. It's your fault. Look, we didn't bomb Israel. Well, but did you pay for the guys that did it? I mean, whose fault is it really? So it seems like it's always the moneyed interest's fault, Joe.
So, and again, on the half-empty cup, we'll delve further into that. But that's what you got to look out here for. The financial side, that's what we're looking for, right? Yep. Does Israel stay within their border? If they do, then okay, I don't think it's really going to have a huge effect. If they don't, right, then all hell breaks loose, and not in a way that I think most of us would like to see. Having said that, a lot of striking happening. First, I'm going to start with Costco. A year after they warned they would have to hike membership fees, Costco's CEO said, we're going to be hiking membership fees. It's a matter of when, not if. You are going to see it happen. The membership costs $60. That was, I want to say, the executive membership was $120. But Costco is saying that, hey, we got to make up the cost somewhere, so get ready for membership fees at Costco to head higher. This morning, 4 prime healthcare California hospitals are going on strike. The United Nurses Association of California and the Union of Healthcare Professional Service Employees International announced that they are launching a strike that started today. It represents 2,400 workers at 4 different hospitals. And again, same thing. We want better working conditions. Everybody wants, you know what? They all want the same thing. We want to make more money and we want to work less. I mean, that's really kind of the driver of things. How about this? Last week we thought the Mack truck strike got a verdict, right? The last minute deal, they didn't hit the strike lines. Well, they did this morning. The 4,000 United Auto Workers, and then remember we talked about this at Mack, they share a plant with Volvo as well. The Volvo guys aren't on strike or not striking. Their contract isn't up, I guess. They're going to have to shut down with them because they can't run the plant without the others. They said that 73% of the workers voted down a 19% pay increase, a $3,500 bonus, enhanced retirement benefits, and more vacation time. Not enough, Jason. Again, same thing. Everybody, we want more money, we want better benefits, and we want to work less. And that's just a situation where, again, when you talk about allowing inflation to get entrenched, which was the Fed's fault, we're here because of them. This is what happens. Because at the end of the day, you know what? They just, obviously the working less part, that's been a plan for decades and decades and decades. But you know what? The bottom line is, hey, in order for us to maintain the same standard of living, we need more money.
Yeah, and the Fed's desperately trying to get rid of jobs, aren't they, Joe? Trying to get rid of jobs. Very quickly, by next year, I want more money and I don't work less hours, that could very quickly turn into, hey, does anybody have a job that I can work? That's how different of a world next year's going to be. Next year's going to be, oh my God, where's the jobs? I need a job desperately. And believe it, if you're paying attention at all with what's going on in the world, guess who's having trouble, getting enough recruitment, getting enough people? The U.S. military can't seem to really just get enough people to join up. And when the economy crashes, guess what? What a nice safe place. The place that gives you room and board, gives you good pay, on-the-job training. I don't think they're going to have much trouble recruiting in an economic crash next year, Joe.
How about this one? Last but not least, this is just today. Hundreds of pharmacists and other employees at the country's largest drugstore chain, Walgreens, are planning to walk off the job this morning to protest what they are saying are increasingly miserable working conditions. The way I understand it, this is going to be, it's not like all the pharmacists at all the Walgreens are going to walk off. But it looks like, Jason, they're going to target, hey, certain stores, you may be lucky or unlucky, right? Yep, your pharmacy, that store's pharmacist walked off the job today. There's no one, and you're going to have to go somewhere else. And, of course, the lines, and I get it. Everybody's in a bad mood, aren't they? And especially when you're at the pharmacy, there's a lot of people that, right, they're extra cranky. And the whole thing again, though, right, it's all about more money, want to work less. A lot of these pharmacists are working 50, 60, 70 hours a week because there's just not enough coverage. And they say that we don't believe Walgreens is allowing us to give our patients safe care on a daily basis. I spent almost my whole day in the shot room, and if I'm not in the shot room, I'm filling prescriptions because we're so far behind. And again, I mean, Kaiser's on strike right now, 85,000 workers there. Now we got this hospital group in California on strike. And now Walgreens says, hey, just start expecting it. We're just going to start walking out of stores, select stores, starting today. Yeah, sounds like we got everything all under control, doesn't it? Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back after the break. (800) 951 0592. Joe and Jason here on this Monday. And we've had a strong move here. Gold's up $22. Was up on Friday as well. 1852. Silver. Man, it happened so fast, right? I mean, we were talking about, silver going to $20. Silver's up 27 more cents, back to $22. I said it all last week. Do not let this go by without adding. I've got a very small but very strong special. So think about this. This was gold, like talking about almost $1,800. So figure almost $50 in gold price ago. We ran some $10 liberties at $1,035. I'm going to do that price right now. $1,035, with almost a $50 increase in the gold price from when we ran it. I've only have 40 of them. This is kind of the problem right now is the big guys have come in. They've been buying up the market here. There's not the amount of inventory we'd like to see available right now, but $10 liberties at $1,035 at 800-951-0592. And again, we have so many things. The Middle East thing it's just one more log on the fire here, Jason. We've had a really bad debt market here as we've seen interest rates without a rate hike. Right? Think about it. The last rate hike was like 12 weeks ago. Right? By the time we get to the next meeting, right, there's 7 weeks in between meetings. We didn't raise this meeting. We'll see what happens at the next meeting. And yet we've had more than a 50 basis point move, on the 10-year note. And Jason, we got to almost 4.9 on the yield today. The 10-year note at 4.8. But look at the debt, very quietly for most. The debt's jumped $400 billion in like 10 days.
It's going to get worse too, isn't it? It just seems like there's not one economic indicator that says things are going to get better. I don't know what anyone says about soft landings or, hey, they're going to lower the rates here next year. I don't know what these guys are looking at. There's not one whether it be geopolitics, whether it be inflation, interest rates, all the indicators, the oil prices, it's none of it's good. This is one of those things where, under normal circumstances, we'd have a recession, which is actually healthy for a well-functioning free economy. Recessions happen. People go through it. You tighten the belt, right? You get through a tough time for a year maybe or whatever, and then things start growing again. But this, Joe, the reason that this is so scary, why you have so many people worrying about what's going to happen, is because this doesn't look like there's any getting better after this. This looks like something that could be very long, drawn out, and painful. And it doesn't look like it's just America. It looks like all over the world this is going to be a problem. Just all over the place, Joe. All over the place we're going to have this. I mean, when people start dying, that's when they're trying to wake up everybody else to, like, okay, look, things are bad now. We can now we position ourselves well. Now you guys can understand that things are going to go bad now, and just don't look at the man behind the curtain, right, Joe?
Yeah, and again, I think the bigger issue here, it's little things, right? All right, student debt repayments. How many people aren't going to pay? I think that's going to be a shocking number. The ones that do pay, well, that's $300, $400, $500 a person less to spend or to save, whatever it may be. And you're talking, here's the thing. It's not like we're talking 1 million people, 5 million people. We're talking about 40+ million. We have just as many people, think about this, on food stamps as we do not making student loan debt payments. Right? Both of those are north of 40 million people, and now that's restarted again. I think the timing of it's tough. Obviously, what's happened with oil supply, we're producing almost 13 million barrels a day. All-time highs. And the rig counts keep falling, right? We're getting ready. That number is going to start falling. It just is. And unfortunately, right, Russia, the Saudis, right, OPEC, hey, they're not pumping any extra oil, right? And now this whole Mideast thing, throw that on there. If it gets out of the borders of Israel, Jason, nothing really makes, like you said, there's not a lot of good outside of jobs. So let's talk about that. Right? We had
That's not good either.
100,000 jobs created. That's what the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Now, these guys, I'm going to say this. I don't believe any of their numbers. And we know, it wasn't even 30 days ago, they got rid of hundreds of thousands of jobs, like 400,000 or 500,000 jobs. They said, well, after the fact, we recalculated. We didn't really create as many as we said. And then this report comes out. Not only did they have a number way higher than it, matter of fact, the highest person, I want to say, was 240,000. And it came in like 330. But then they added a ton of jobs to the previous 2 months. I mean, this thing, by all accounts, was a huge blowout of epic proportions. But here was something that, now, and you noticed it earlier. Remember what happened, right? The Dow was down big. Gold was down, and they all came back. The Dow finished up like 300 points. Gold finished higher. Silver finished higher. What happened? Well, the household survey. So people got to remember there's 2 jobs reports that come out. The Bureau of Labor Statistics gives you jobs created. The household survey gives you everything else. Well, jobs created in wages on the BLS. The household survey, they give you unemployment. You know what else they give? The type of job. And this is what got Wall Street back on track on Friday. I'll tell you what type of job the household survey says all these people are getting. That's coming up next. $800-951-0592, $10 Liberties, 1,035. They're not going to be on the website today because I don't have that many. And over the break, half of them are gone already. So if you want to take advantage here, and I highly suggest that you do, $10 Liberty Gold. I mean, this was the price when gold was getting, right on the precipice of falling below 1,800 last week. So now we got gold 1852 and rising here. Same price. Unfortunately, just cleaning up what is left. 800-951-0592. $10 Liberties at 1,035. But since Jason and I weren't here on Friday, what we need to talk about that jobs report, because it was a big number. And initially, just like we expected, right, we had trouble on Wall Street, gold and silver were getting hit, and then all of a sudden, miraculously, it turned around. Well, what happened? Well, the household survey, where you get the unemployment rate, which, by the way, didn't go down. I mean, you create, allegedly, 336,000 jobs. Didn't you go back the previous 2 months, add, I don't even know, 140, 150,000? Essentially, they said, oh, by the way, here's 500,000 more jobs. Gosh, the unemployment rate's got to fall with that. Right? Has to. It didn't. Didn't do anything, matter of fact. Instead, and this is something where I'm being told, I see it here at my offices. My friends that own businesses are telling me the same thing. And the household survey is saying it and has been saying it. The number of newly employed workers, according to the household survey, now remember they said 336,000 new jobs. According to the household survey, they said the number of newly employed workers was just 86,000. That's it. 86,000. Well, how did we have 336,000 new jobs created? Well, it's funny you ask, because what the household survey says is that, well, the government was adding a ton of jobs, and they did in the report as well. The big thing that's been happening is full-time workers has been falling all year, according to the household survey, and that all of the gains in payroll, and obviously all is probably not true, right? There's some full-time, but the majority of the gains in the payroll, Jason, are part-time workers, and according to the household survey, this latest report was actually driven by people getting another job. In other words, they already have a job. To the point now, the household survey says never in American history have Americans been working more than one job at any point in history. We have more people working multiple jobs today than we've ever had.
Exactly. I've been saying that for these jobs numbers for a while now, maybe the last couple of years. But just imagine you got a guy who's doing everything he can to pay the bills. He's got 3 jobs, right? If he loses job number 1, it's not a job loss. Then he gets another job to cover job loss number 1. It's a job gain, right, Joe? So you have these big job gains number. He loses job number 2. It's not a job loss because he can't file unemployment. He can't get an unemployment number. Then he gets another job. You can lose essentially 2 jobs in a month and go fill in with other part-time jobs, Joe. It counts as 2 job gains, but there was nothing gained. Somebody probably at those other jobs that he got hired onto either retired or needed to work less or died or any other reason why that's not an unemployment number, right? So the jobs numbers, I think, are in a weird place that they've never really been in before, which is, Joe, everybody needs multiple jobs to make it work because companies aren't going to give you full-time or overtime.
I don't know how to judge this. I don't. But if you took the unseasonally adjusted numbers, and again, I don't know how this could be right, but I'm just telling you what it is. The number of unadjusted full-time workers fell by 885,000 jobs in September alone. That would be the single biggest month going back to COVID when everybody was told not to go to work. Okay? 800 and again, how do you lose 885,000 full-time jobs in a month? I don't get it, right? This tells you how screwy the data is. But then they said, by the way, the number of part-time work, right, it grew by like 1.1 million. Right? I mean, so I don't know. But like, here's what I guess what I'm telling everybody is there's a lot of part-time work available. Yeah. Certainly doesn't look like there's very much full-time work available at all. And the vast majority of these jobs being filled, you guessed it, older workers. And what do I mean by older workers? 55 plus making up the majority of these jobs. Patriot Radio News Hour, final segment coming up. $800-951-0592, the last of these $10 liberties. Believe me, this smoking deal here at $1,035. Gold's up $22. Silver's up 25 cents. Wall Street it's down, but not a lot, 40, 50 points. The S&P, the NASDAQ, they're all lower, but not by a ton. The 10-year note at 4.8 at 800-951-0592. Keep adding here. Do not let this pullback go by. It's almost over. Matter of fact, because the 10-year note has gone so much higher now, I think we're going to start hearing a lot of Fed governors talk about no need to raise because the 10-year note's done the work for us. If that becomes fruition, and as we get closer to the November meeting, that there is not going to be a rate hike. Matter of fact, as of right now, less than 20% chance of a rate hike. Jason, there's a good chance, and obviously we don't know what's going to happen, but there's a good chance we may have seen the lows in gold and silver here. Last week may have been it if we're going to get a lot of Fed talk saying that we don't need to raise rates. CPI's coming out this week, and I think what they're going to do, I think we're going to get a high headline number, but they're going to take solace in the core number being lower again and setting the table to not have to raise rates again, which makes gold and silver really attractive here.
Yeah, that could absolutely happen. We'll see when we get there, right? And so I think the CPI number, this is the last chance for them to have a really good number because I think the inflation's coming and coming back big, and the next few months these CPI numbers are going to be higher. They're going to be higher, and I think raising rates. I think they want to pause and stay paused. I think that's been the whole goal this year. That's I don't know if they're going to get there. I don't know if they get there, Joe. I don't. I could see a very late in the year rate hike or early next year, and then I could see them hike it a few more times next year because the stuff that I see happening doesn't look like inflation's going away, Joe. This looks like inflation. Can you imagine what oil prices will do if this thing gets bigger in the Middle East? Every single thing to make oil go higher is happening. countries that you produce are not. Things are getting blown up everywhere. And now Iran might get involved with this Israel thing. Every single thing they can do to squeeze the supply of oil, and this will just make inflation worse. Everything's just going to cost more, Joe.
Listen, and don't forget, if it does happen, man, look for alternatives. Call Joey. Listen, Joey's stacked right now. If you're looking at someone to help you out there, don't forget our friends at Y Refi. Listen, up to 10.25%. They don't care if Israel bombs Iran. They don't care. If they go after Hamas and Qatar, they don't care. They don't care what the Fed governors say. They don't care what the CPI report is going to be. If you've got $50,000 or more to invest, you can get up to 10.25% returns, and it's not correlated to Wall Street. It's not correlated to the Fed. It doesn't care about oil prices. Boy, that's starting to look really good right now. Look them up, investyrefi.com. That's the word invest, the letter Y, REFY.com, or call them at 888-YREFI24. 888-YREFI24. Before you call them, call us. Get the $10 liberties put away. God bless everybody. Listen, Jason and I, we're coming right back with the half-empty cup. We're going to talk Israel. I'm sure we're also going to talk pharmacists and why are they walking off the job at Walgreens. All that coming up and more on the half-empty cup.